Hello and welcome to Move the Line, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. I'm Ryan Noonan, joined here, as always, by Connor Allen to talk Week 6 NFL news, notes, futures, games. What's going on, buddy?
Yeah, I'm coming off of my best public week of betting ever.
Absolutely destroyed it.
10-1, 10 unders, 1 over. The over one, the only under that I lost all week was on a Daniel Jones under, who apparently played awesome without Malik Neighbors. Did not have that in my cards. But it was, again, 10-1 week. I hope no one gets accustomed to that, because my goal each week is just to grind out a little bit of profit and be happy. But it was great. It felt, I don't feel bad bragging about it, because again, that's once in 5 years now since I've been publicly keeping track of my records and posting plays. So I feel good about it.
Absolutely sick. Leading into, calling it a bid is not fair, because it's definitely, I think, something you found to be an edge, right? Like it became like,
Kind of
hey,
a bit, but
especially bad quarterback unders in particular was the Daniel Jones play, the one that lost. But leading into the thought that there's just so many more outs and unders. It's how your brain works. Like our community is so like fired up and confused when Connor posts an over, that they're like, damn, Connor must love this play, because no one is expecting him to have an under when he is notifies the group that the plays are coming. And of course, the one was Amari Cooper, who comfortably went over, should have absolutely cruised to all the ladders of the alts, but it looked like those two had been playing catch for the first time ever. But excited to get here to Week 6. Our guest this week is an old friend. Not by age, but in terms of this gentleman used to grace our presence at 4for4, has now moved on and is absolutely crushing it. He is the Chief Content Officer over at FTN. It is our friend at Randall Rant on Twitter, Mike Randall. Welcome back.
I am honored to be back with you guys. The legends themselves, we are here. It's great to be back, boys. Yes, I'm already researching college basketball. Is there a conference with less than 35 teams this year? But either way, let's cut up for NFL. Things are going well. Not as well as Connor, but they're going pretty well over here at FTN. So we're doing okay.
How are my UNH Wildcats going to be this year? We got a shot at all to have a pulse there.
You're always around. You always do well, Ryan. The question is, can you get over the hump and get to the Final Four? That's the key. But, you're joining a new conference. Why not take a shot at it, But no, you'll be in the mix. You always are.
Oh, man. Excited to have Randall back. And again, everything he's doing at FTN, just since Randall stepped in to the building, the place has ascended, not by accident. So we're excited to see good things happening to Mike and the team over there. Continued success. Check that out. I want to remind folks that this is 2 episodes of Move Line each week. This is our more game previews, sides, totals. We're going to get into some other stuff around the league. Friday afternoons, 3 p.m. Eastern is prop drop. So if you want some of the plays, all the official things that we have, John Hyslop, myself, Connor, come in. Some of those plays that Connor gave out last week were dropped on the show. Come back wherever you listen to podcasts, Move the Line, or 4for4 bets on the YouTube channel. Wherever you'd like to take it in, be a pal, take a second, review the show, a thumbs up. All those things help keep the free content coming to you. We appreciate that very much. If you want all the official plays, so all those things that come out on Prop Drop that come out first, into our betting subscription Discord over at 4for4. So head to 4for4.com/plan, scoop up the betting sub. It's got everything you need to be profitable here. Your fantasy team might be going to waste. Who knows? DFS is a struggle. Jump in. We have everything: rankings, tools, projections, all that stuff, all covered with our betting subscription. We have a partner with Rebet. You can download Rebet as a sweepstakes app. They have a sportsbook. They have a version of Prop Builder if you need another out. Promo code 4for4bet when you download Rebet. $10 in Rebet cash will get you a free 4for4 subscription for the rest of the year. More information in the show notes. You can reach out to us directly if you have any questions there. But a great way to take advantage and dip your toes in the water, get a sense of what we got going on here at 4for4. All right, gentlemen, buys continue this week. London continues this week. We have Jacksonville and Chicago there. But I want to take a look back a little bit. Mike, we'll start with you here too. We often have, we spend so much time doing content in the off season, kind of lock into some preseason takes. Some things go well, some things don't go so well. So we're kind of take a temperature now that we were a couple weeks in here, get a sense of, is there a preseason take that you had, that knowing what we now know after 5 weeks, that maybe you'd like to walk back a little bit?
Yeah, I bought into the last to first in the division, which I know Connor always talks about. That's gone well in a couple instances, but one instant it hasn't gone well is the Carolina Panthers to win the NFC South at plus 1,100 on DraftKings. Guys, I thought Canales would fix Bryce Young. I did get a little excited about Andy Dalton, but they lost Brown, the defensive tackle, for the run stopping for the year. So I don't think that one's going to make it to the window. We'll call that one a loss. I think it's wide open, and Derek Carr now hurt. Maybe Spencer Rattler starting. I get it. Tampa Bay's been up and down. But that was right church, wrong pew for me. So Carolina Panthers to win the NFC South. A couple of them worked. That one didn't. I have to eat a humble pie there. Maybe they make a run late. I don't know. But it just seems like maybe I was a year too early, fellas, on the Panthers of the NFC South.
You're too early, Mike. I don't think it's happening either. Spoiler alert, they're coming up in another part of the show here for me. But Connor, we touched base on this a couple weeks ago. I forget which guest it was, but circling back, is there something now a couple weeks further along that you were locked in on, maybe preseason, that you want to walk back?
Yeah, we might have. I think we did touch on it in a couple weeks ago with the Commanders. I mean, I was pretty anti-Commanders. I thought that they were going to be bad offensively and defensively. They're still not good defensively, but they are awesome offensively, and that was a big mistake. And Jaden Daniels is playing well. The tandem running back room between Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler, maybe even a little Jeremy McNichols is playing pretty well as well. Yeah. Terry McLaurin's proven to be that deep threat, and plus a little bit more. So, and Zach Ertz, again, just catching the ball, falling down, doing what he does best. So I think that's this combination of the guys that they have that's working really well. I'm very interested to see them play against some tough defenses, because they have been playing against a lot of bad defenses, but they played pretty well against the Browns. They get the Ravens this week, who, I mean, we'll talk about that in a little bit, but I don't know if they don't really play that many good defenses. So I don't think that analysis even matters. So that's kind of the pushback is I just don't think that that's going to happen this year. I think they might just keep playing awesome.
Yeah, they've been awesome. Schedules, kind of middle of the pack in terms of strength of schedule, but he said not a ton of daunting defenses that are kind of coming down. So just maybe continue to be an over team with maybe a little bit more ceiling than we thought. For me, is one you touched on the first time we talked about this, that I think makes a ton of sense. I mean, we were both kind of lockstep in thinking that there might be a little bit more upside to this Denver offense than we were thinking, but the problem was going to be the defense. Turns out that is completely wrong. A double air ball, basically. The defense has been fantastic. The offense is frighteningly limited at times, and does not seem to be changing for the good at any point. So yeah, and the defense, I feel like some of it's pretty stable. Defense week to week, season to season is obviously a little bit more variable than offensive performance, but Denver's kind of rolling on all cylinders defensively. So does not have the upside offensively that we thought. Bengals to win the division, kind of another competitor for me. I'm not ready to take a full L on that yet, partially because the offense is cooking like peak Burrow Super Bowl run offense. Just the defense is like Carolina Panthers bad. So that's kind of a problem. And 1-4 makes things a little bit harder. How about the other side? I'll get it started too as a preseason take that you are going to take our flowers here a little bit. We just took a lump. Something that you had in the preseason that's trending pretty well so far. Obviously a lot to play itself out. I didn't cash my 15-1 Jags to start the season 0-5. Which is frustrating. Just kind of excuse my language, kicking the dick. That's kind of what week 5 was for me for the entirety of the week. For the most part, that was kind of the icing on the cake. Felt like, directionally correct. I still think the Jags are going to be a bad football team. So even though that bet didn't cash, I still feel pretty good about the Jags being an underperformer in what people thought was maybe a wide open division. Connor, what's something that you kind of nailed in the preseason so far?
Yeah, I also didn't cash my Doug Peterson first coach to be fired because they fired Sala. And I think if they would have lost, I think Peterson's probably gone.
He doesn't get on the plane.
So that kind of stinks. And that was again, 15-1, 12-1, I think somewhere in that range. A preseason take that I've had that's going well so far. I mean, the Raiders are dumpster fire. Just lost Christian Wilkins today. Devontae Adams has a, ghost hamstring injury randomly the last few weeks. And it's just basically, it's inevitable that he's going to be traded at this point. Max Crosby's dinged up. They benched their starting quarterback and they're moving on to AOC. So it's everything that we talked about in the preseason that could have happened is happening right now. So, they just lost by 20 to Denver. I think Denver's fine, but you shouldn't be losing by 20 to Denver. So, I don't know. We talked about with Chernoff last week. We played a little bit of Raiders' worst record at I think it was 22 or 23-1. I expect that market again, but I mean, it might be worth hitting again at anything like up to like 6-1, 7-1, because the wheels here look like they're falling off.
Yeah, no, it's a good call for sure. I thought that they would have a little bit more fight because of the defense, because the defensive line would be a little feisty. They lost Malcolm Kuntz early. That hurt that. And now you lose, dinged up Crosby, dinged up Christian Wilkins. That, the only strength that I thought you had, not a strength, turns out. Mike, what did you nail so far?
Well, not to go against Connor, but I liked Washington. I got them at plus 800 to win the NFC East. I also got them at plus 260 to make the playoffs on DraftKings. Rationale was, we've seen this before. If you go back in time, you had Washington at plus 2,200 in 2020 to win the division. They won it at 7-9. You've seen it even earlier than that. You go back to 2012 with Robert Griffin's first year, Commanders plus 1,000 at 10-6. And I thought that Jaden Daniels is going to be someone that they're going to have to figure out. And you guys know I have a love for Brian Robinson. So basically all I needed was Dan Quinn to be able to make this defense decent. And they've been okay. The numbers per DVOA at FTN are not good, but I thought they could be competitive. The Eagles defense struggled last year. Vic Fangio's second year is always better than the first. So there's some time there. You know, you're not going to have a repeat because the NFC East hasn't had a repeat champion in basically 20 years. And the Giants forget it. So I took a flyer on them. I thought Daniels could be special. They do have McLaurin. I kind of thought they'd get another wide receiver, so I got lucky. And, of course, Parsons, Lawrence out. That helps as well. It's still early, but I like the plus 260. And win the division, we still have a long shot. So Commanders, Dan Quinn being decent and no one figuring out Jaden Daniels yet. This week, I'm not so sure, but so far so good, guys.
Yeah, we'll see about this week too. I mean, it's hard not to be encouraged with everything that he has going on. It's really fun to watch for sure. Back to you, Mike. How about a future that's currently on the board before we jump into the week 6 games? Take it anywhere you want. The win totals. We have new Super Bowls, futures, anywhere you want to go.
Yeah, this, again, going to be against you guys a little bit, but maybe I'm just sticking to my priors here. I like the Jags to make the playoffs at plus 350. Hear me out. Okay. I think they've played better than we've really seen. They should have beat Miami. If Travis Etienne doesn't fumble on that first game on the 2, they go up 24-7. They win that game. Things seem a lot better than they were. Stumbled against the Browns, couldn't get in the red zone. But you're going to London now for 2 consecutive games. They can easily win both of those games. Evan Ingram's coming back. Brian Thomas has started to explode and really stretch the field. Trevor Lawrence has been abysmal, but their run defense has been okay per DVOA, and they were slaughtered injury-wise in the secondary against the Bills. Lost a player in the first quarter as well. So I think it's a buy low situation. Are they going to win the division? No. Could they sneak in the playoffs and make a run in an NFL where everyone's hoping to be 9-8? Maybe. So that's one that I've invested in. Plus 350 Jazz to make the playoffs. I know it sounds a little nuts, but all these injuries have occurred and the Jags are suddenly getting healthier. I think Peterson's a decent coach. He may have lost the locker room and he may not be long for the team, but I like that in that division. I think the Colts stink. I don't buy the Titans. Yes, the Texans are good, but they've escaped a little bit. They didn't look great against the Bears at home on that Sunday night game. So I'm taking the Jags at plus 350. Call me crazy, but that's my future bet that I'm into right now.
Well, I mean, to be fair, no one really wants the back half of that playoff spots, right? So it's just it is kind of wide open. And I think their best case scenario is just a very good Commanders, very good Arizona Cardinals, where they're just become an over team. Because I'm not buying. I don't think part of my handicap coming in, Mike, was that I didn't think they had the dogs to execute Ryan Nielsen's system. Mm-hmm. He hasn't shown to be a coach that alters what he does. This is kind of what he wants to do, and they've suffered cluster injuries in the back half that make it harder for them to execute. So they are really bad against the pass, and it's been I don't think it's anything that's going to be slowing down anytime soon. So yeah, I think there's an offensive upside for sure. So maybe they become an over team to watch here. Connor, what do you think here? What's a future on the board that you like to get in?
Yeah, I focused on one market, and I was looking at the MVP market here. I think there's 3 really interesting ones that, I mean, we're only 5 weeks in. Like, I feel like there's a lot of like overreaction here. Jordan Love is 45-1. Jalen Hurts is 30-1, and Geno's 90-1. Like, I know Geno Smith and the Seahawks just lost to the Giants, but like, again, we're 5 weeks in. They're passing the ball at the highest rate over expectation, and Geno largely is playing awesome. Like, their defense is beat up right now. If for some reason they go on a long stretch of winning, maybe they win this Thursday. They win Thursday. Like, they beat the Niners. Like, they win the division. Geno's squarely in play at 90-1. Jordan Love 45-1. Again, he was injured. Like, no one's going to remember that he was injured and didn't really play all that well in his first game or 2 back. if he rolls off like 7 or 8 wins at the end of the season, and they win the division. And then same with Jalen Hurts. Like the Eagles are like, what, 2-2, I think, at this point. Like, again, if they win the division, like he's 30-1. He was like a 12-1, 13-1, like close this season. So I thought that all those were like, we're buying low on, 2 quarterbacks that were like squarely in the mix as like fringe contenders heading into the season. And then Geno, who like, I think we should just adjust our priors, where like the Seahawks offense is passing an unreal amount. And if for some reason they win a lot of games, I mean, again, 90-1 is too short. So I just played a couple little sprinkle on each. Again, not even like, I mean, we're talking like 0.1 to 0.05 units if you're tracking it like that. But I think it's some mispriced odds there.
I like all those. Those are good call outs. It's such a weird market. We've touched on, MVP, coach of the year, some of the stuff. It's just like, let's talk about it in November, right? It becomes such a reactionary week to week.
Right.
Offensive player of the year, all those become just prisoner of the moment in the way that things kind of shake themselves out. I have significantly less fun play, but one that I really like is Panthers under 4.5 wins. It's plus 100 on the under. I struggle to find where those wins are coming from. We talked about it earlier. I mean, it's the worst point differential in the league. It's nearly twice as high as anyone else. Defense kind of borderline non-competitive at this point, with Derek Brown and Shaq Thompson out. Their best 2 defenders. Their other best defender last year, Brian Burns, already gone. Given up 33 points per game this season. They have not played like elite offenses that would make you be like, oh yeah, no, they've just run into a bunch of buzzsaws. No, it's been bad. Collectively as a team, they have generated 21 quarterback pressures. There are 14 individual players that have 21 or more individual quarterback pressures. They have a pulse with Andy Dalton at quarterback. Again, maybe that becomes a spot where they become an over team we need to look at. But like look at the schedule based off of current opponent win percentage, which is obviously a flawed way to look at it. But as you go through it, it's what we have to deal with right now. Third hardest schedule still to come in the league. Saints, Giants, Broncos, Cardinals are their best chances to get wins. They're going to be underdogs by, I think, 3 or more in all those games. So, I think that this is just a bad football team. And even with Andy Dalton, the quarterback, under 4.5 at plus 100, I think is a pretty good look on the poor Panthers. I'm sorry. It's bad.
Yeah, the injuries too to the defensive line, I mean, you mentioned, like, are just unreal. Like, it's like this Panthers D line is like, I don't even know who are they trotting out at this point. Like, I mean,
Clowney is probably out this week too. It's like the only guy that's doing anything up front for them. Ashawn Robinson, more of a run stop guy. They don't really have a pass rush at all. It's kind of what I was trying to lay out. It's really hard to be competitive defensively when you have injuries. I mean, they spent money on Jordan Fuller in free agency. He's on the IR. Another guy just like injured. They just keep losing everybody. Not Josie Jewell, probably not practicing, maybe not playing again this week. So it's just a bad situation for them. So not a good one. Yeah. So plus 100, under 4.5 across the board. Every book has that. So go get it. All right, guys, let's jump into some week 6 games. I counted 10 home dogs on the board this week, which is pretty interesting considering the nature of how dogs have been doing in general this year, especially like when you get up to 6-point dogs. Those things have been barking pretty loud. So interested to see what your guys' thoughts are here. Start with the one we've kind of been dancing around. Some Commanders talk early. Commanders are on the road in Baltimore. I believe we are 6.5 across the board. Total 51.5 is jumped a little bit through the look at markets. This was like 49.5. We've jumped through a key number now at 51.5, which is interesting. It's a spot for both offenses to cook, Connor. I think the Browns made the Commanders look, at least defensively, competent last week. I think that says more about the Browns than it does the Commanders here. What are your thoughts here on this one?
Yeah, this game is really interesting. We've been talking about it a little bit in our Slack here with how we want to handle it. But this Ravens secondary hasn't really played all that well. 25th in dropback EPA, but they're playing elite run defense, first in rushing success rate, first in they're allowing 2 yards a carry or something like that to running backs right now. It's crazy low number. And so this is going to be a lot of pressure on Jaden Daniels in this passing game to, I think, really just move it here. But I think that they can with how they've played and their upside here. If Jaden Daniels can push this passing game, this is the way that they win, is they get out in front and make the Ravens pass the ball a little bit more than they'd like to. That's the path of the Commanders keeping this game close and winning. Now the downside and the reverse here, and what I worry about is Commanders ranked 27th in rushing success rate, 24th in dropback success rate. their defense hasn't had a whole lot of success stopping people outside of Deshaun Watson. And especially with Derrick Henry, especially with how the Ravens can go big and just like dominate in the running game. Like I have a really hard time seeing the Commanders stop that. And so like in most scenarios, I mean, the Ravens and Derrick Henry are probably rushing for 150 to 200 yards in total here, and probably winning this game pretty easy. But I do worry because like I've been against the Commanders here, opposite of Mike. I've been fading the Commanders here, and it's just been, not been profitable so far. So I'm a little bit concerned about doing that with the secondary that like, I don't think the Ravens secondary is good. Like I don't want to be having my eggs in those baskets there. So.
Yeah, Mike, where are you on this one? It's going to be, I think, an interesting one. Probably, I think we all agree that probably the toughest test so far for the Commanders.
We have a slight edge, 3% on the Ravens -6.5. And that makes me nervous for all the reasons you just said about 6-point favorites. So you want to tease it down. That's fine. I do like the Ravens to win the game. We have no advantage on the FTM model on the edge for the total. But I do think that this game, the Ravens are going to do what I thought the Browns would do. And a lot of sharps were on the Browns last week for the reasons that Connor just said, that Washington is now going to face a defense that's going to bring more pressure than they face with Arizona, some of the other teams. I think the Ravens are going to do that here. I'm tethering this to some props as well. One of our biggest edges we have in the FTM model is Jaden Daniels under his rushing total, which is about 51.5. We project him with a 13% edge at about 37.7 yards. That makes sense to me, guys, because the Ravens certainly know how to practice against a rushing quarterback, and they're going to come up with some things and force Daniels to throw. He's been magical. He's been tremendous, and I like this Washington team. I just don't like the spot, and maybe I was a week early with the Browns last week. I like the Ravens. The edge is slight here. I do like tethering it to the props, Daniels under, things like that. So I'm going to go with the Ravens. Not a huge edge in the model, but I do think they get the job done here against Washington.
Yeah, I think props are definitely an interesting way to think about how there's some easy ways to correlate things that if you're right, you're going to kind of, 3, 4x, the way that you kind of handicap this game. The longest explosives, I think, make a ton of sense. We've seen a massive amount of explosive passes against this Ravens secondary this season. And then you have this combination of Derrick Henry averaging the second highest yards before contact in the league, and the Commanders giving up the second highest yards before contact in the league. Henry downhill, tough spot for the Commanders. Again, even if they sell out, we've seen kind of last week even where the Bengals kind of sold out a little bit more to try to stop the run, limited him until he got one. It only takes one to hit one of those longest bets. He hit it late. But we saw Lamar being a little bit more dynamic in the passing game too. And, at least I think they have that in a little bit more, a few more outs in the passing game this year than years past.
Yeah, and rushing DVOA, we have Minnesota first, Kansas City second, and Baltimore third in terms of rush defense DVOA. And Aaron Schatz said this morning that historically, the Ravens are like the 5th best 3-2 team in DVOA history. So maybe a little bit of a buy low spot on the Ravens here.
Yeah. All right, next we have an interesting one. The Cardinals are on the road in Green Bay. This is held 5.5 through the look aheads, which I think tells us a little bit about how the market feels about what the Cardinals did last week on the road in San Francisco. Total has dipped down a little bit though. This is 49.5 and is down now to 47.5, 48 in some spots. This is back-to-back road games for the Cardinals here. Mike, what are your thoughts on Cardinals Packers?
We have 11.3% edge, which are hitting at 68% this year when it's 10% or higher in the model. On the over, 47.5 at Bet365. Personally, we have no edge on the side. I'm a big Packers and lay the points in this matchup. I've believed in the Packers since the beginning of the year. I saw them and the Lions go in the NFC Championship game. Connor talked about it. You mentioned it, Ryan. I think this is the spot where the Packers start to click. Romeo Doubs should be back. Wicks, Jaden Reed, Tucker Kraft has become a top 3 tight end. What world are we living in? Josh Jacobs is still healthy. Defense played well. And that game last week, it's on the road against the Rams. Never easy against Sean McVay. But if Jordan Love doesn't throw that ball into the hands of the Rams secondary on the 5-yard line, they win that game pretty comfortably. So they're playing well. Cardinals with a big comeback win. That's fantastic. Second game on the road. I am going with the Packers laying the points here at FTN. Our edge is on the over 47.5. And to Connor's point, which was great before, Jordan Love, MVP. He hangs 40 points and 4 touchdowns this week. You'll see how those odds plummet. I think that could happen here. I'm taking the Packers laying the points.
Ooh, that's hot. I like it. I wrote this in the look aheads, Connor. I saw it at 5, kind of felt like a spot where market's kind of putting their hands up and not really sure what to do. I felt like anything below 6 was play for the Packers. I still kind of feel that way. I mean, I just feel like the Niners kind of play with their food a little bit. Again, I was chasing that Purdy prop. I watched a lot of that game intensely in the second half. I don't feel like the Cardinals went out and like took that game. It was the Niners drove down, dominated, literally ran like 8 out of 9 plays. Very frustrating when you need a quarterback to throw the football. But the last play resulted in a fumble inside the 10 from Jordan Mason. They took it and scored, and then you had a kind of a fluke interception at the end of the game. It wasn't really the Cardinals doing a ton. It was more so the Niners just kind of not putting their foot on their necks. What do you think here, under 6?
Yeah, I mean, the Cardinals just haven't really been all that impressive, in my opinion, especially defensively. Dead last in dropback success rate, 28th against the run. I mean, this total touched 50. Now we're down to 47.5. Like, I'm interested in the over here just because of not only the Cardinals defense been bad, their offense has been like wildly inconsistent. They had an amazing game against the Rams, but just 13 and 14 points against the Lions and Commanders, who you would anticipate was like a great matchup for Kyler against the secondaries that haven't really been all that impressive. And he just hasn't been able to pull through. And like you mentioned, like, yeah, they scored 24 points against the Niners, but like it was kind of like fluky. It didn't really make sense. So, I mean, I think I have a tough time at this point, like not backing the Packers here in the over. But my only issue would be like the Packers defense hasn't been that good. 30th in dropback success rate, 23rd in rushing success rate. So like, but again, it's been like multiple of these matchups with Kyler. You're like, oh, well, he should have success, or like, oh, they should have a ton of success offensively, and it just really hasn't come to fruition yet. So I would definitely lean Packers in the over as well. But I'm interested to see how it goes. Maybe this total keeps moving down here.
Yeah, or Packers team total could be an angle too, if the Cardinals show a pulse or whatnot. So yeah, that's again 5 across the board. FanDuel a 5.5 minus 106, but everyone else, minus 110 at 5 feels like a good side. Next, Lions are on the road in Dallas against the Cowboys. Lions coming off of a bye, kind of a shorter week, I guess. A Sunday night game. Basically a Monday morning game. The way that things kind of rolled out with the Cowboys in Pittsburgh last week. Feels a little bit in the sense that, like, again, the totals clipped out to 52.5. Feels like a lot of points. This feels similar to last week with that Bengals-Ravens game, where, to oversimplify the handicap, I just don't see a scenario where Dallas can stop this Detroit running game. Could be oversimplifying it. Connor, what do you think about Lions-Cowboys?
Yeah, it's like, no, I totally agree, because it's like another massively run heavy approach from the Lions. We saw them in week 3 just put up a stinker against the Bucs. Like, I mean, Jared Goff threw like a back-breaking pick. Like, his total stats looked good, but his actual performance was not good. And then from there, they're like, all right, we got to get back to our roots. They ran the ball 39 times for 200 yards against the Cardinals, and then 26 runs to 18 passes against Seattle. They just scored 40 points on like 50 plays. So like, they would have ran it even more, to be honest, I think, if they had the opportunity. Now they draw Dallas, bottom 5 in rushing success rate, dead last in run to EPA. I mean, meanwhile, their pass defense is pretty good in terms of success rate, and they've been getting some pressure. So like, I think they want to avoid that. I foresee David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs both having a lot of success here on the ground, because it matches just like all the boxes are being checked here. We know that Ben Johnson will skew his game plan run heavy, and I think that the Lions know that they don't want to have Jared Goff carrying the game here in a spot where you could see a ton of pressure and make more mistakes. So I definitely foresee that. I guess it's just a matter of like, how much can the Dallas side, like, I guess, put up and push them, because again, I don't think the Lions secondary is all that good, and Dallas's offense, hasn't hit their ceiling, but they've passed a ton. They've dropped back to like a ton of times, and like, that's the key to success here as well. So I could see this game going in a variety of different ways, but I'm pretty confident that the Lions are going to try and run the ball early and often.
Yeah, I probably have some success doing so, Mike. I mean, I think those Dallas pressure rates are going to start to come down, where you're dealing without Micah Parsons, DeMarcus Lawrence out. They want to throw in Marshawn Nealon, their rookie, to get things going. Kid lasts a play and then ends up on IR. So kind of cluster injuries at defensive end there for the Cowboys, literally rolling out dudes that I've never heard of at defensive end, which is kind of a tough scene. What do you think about Lions Cowboys?
This game is as uncomfortable as me after spicy wings at Buffalo Wild Wings in the restroom the next day, okay? The only game, I had a good week last week, but the one that didn't make sense to me was the Cowboys and the Steelers. I thought for sure Tomlin after a loss, prime time at home, no Parsons, no Lawrence, all of that. And then all of a sudden, if there wasn't for the 3 turnovers, Cowboys would have won that game fairly easily, I think. So our model here, which I will trust at FTN, 9% edge to the Cowboys, +3 on the side. I will agree with you guys. It does not feel good, but you know Dak with a backdoor cover as he did against Baltimore, all those things, weird things happen. Their running game needs to be better, but I just saw Seattle with Ken Walker flipping over this Lions rushing attack, and then they couldn't even move the ball against the Giants. Now, the offensive coordinator said they didn't run it enough, but they got stopped a lot when they tried to run. So maybe the Cowboys are tough at home. Lions coming off a bye, a little sleepy. I agree. It doesn't feel great. We have no edge on the total, but we do have a 9% edge on +3 here, -105 at Bet365 on the Cowboys. But I agree. It doesn't feel great to me.
Yeah. You could sell me on like over if you're leaning Cowboys, but I get it. 3 on the road, team it's 3-2 and rolls out of bed and goes 12-5 every year in the regular season. I understand why it probably you're going to catch a little bit of that too for sure in the model. But yeah, just kind of been down on Dallas all season. Not sure I want to lay the 3, but some sort of iteration of I just think the Lions score because I don't think Goff's going to be pressured. So team total on the Lions, even though it's probably going to be climbing up there quite a bit. Last, the Monday nighter. Bills are on the road in New York against the Jets. Feels like a primetime game every season. We have the Bills a short 2.5 point favorite here on the road against the Jets. Total pretty low, 41, 40.5 even in some spots, which is interesting. 41 on the lower end is kind of a key number in terms of totals here, Mike. What do we do? I mean, we have Josh Allen coming off of like Wyoming Josh Allen against the Texans, 9 for 30. Nothing but like just massive chucks down the field to Mac Hollins. Like the prayer yards to Mac Hollins in that game were insane. Connor had an under that was like sweaty. I don't know if you're watching any of that game, but Mac Hollins was getting fed deep down the field over and over again.
5 targets and 2 receptions in the first quarter.
Yeah.
And then did not have another single catch the rest of the game. I mean, it was representative of my week. That was awesome. It was just great.
Keon Coleman, I think, had 1 catch for 49 yards. No one had more than 2 receptions for the team. Again, 9 of 30 for Josh, and just obviously a bizarre end of that game. And you got the Jets, who were absolutely blitzed. That game felt over after the first quarter. Yes, they fought back and made it a little bit more interesting. Do they get a little bit of post-firing bump here, Mike, with obviously everything that's been going on in New York here in the last 24 hours or so?
Yeah, that's narrative street, but I'll battle that with our 4% edge here on the Jets +2.5 as a home underdog. I'll also battle Josh Allen's never lost 3 games in a row, I think, or something like that in the NFL. I'll battle that with 3rd straight road game here for the Bills. And these were physical games at Baltimore, at Houston, now at the Jets. They lost last year to Zach Wilson. We saw that. And guys, I thought the Bills were in a very sell high spot after the first 3 games. They play Arizona, enough said. Miami, who was a disaster at that point. And then they torched the Jaguars, who had secondary issues, and the game got away from them. I think you're seeing a regression with Josh Allen. I think this is what the coaches know, which is why they're trying to emphasize the run this year. And when James Cook turned into Walter Payton against the Dolphins, everyone thought it was fine. I think the Jets will be able, hopefully, to stop the run and be a little better. They're a home team. They always get a bump with the changeover. They need this game. I will take the home underdog here in the Jets against the Bills, 3rd straight road game. I think we were overvaluing the Bills. I get it. It's not a sleepy spot because they've lost these games. They need this win badly, but I'm going to take the Jets here. Got about a 4% edge here at FTN on the +2.5. It gets the +3. I'll grab it for sure.
Yeah. Jets interesting. If you do think that you have a lean that way, they are an interesting long spot here, Connor. You can tease them through the 3, through the 7, if you like, at home on a Monday night. What are your thoughts on Bills Jets?
Yeah, I guess that would make a lot of sense. I have a really tough time seeing how either team has like a ton of offensive success here, and that's reflected in the total. I mean, they've both been really, really disappointing. The Bills, I expect to employ like a run-heavy approach. We have James Cook popping up in the injury report today as we're recording. Didn't practice today. I don't know. Maybe we see more Ray Davis. This Jets run defense has not been good, but their pass defense has been awesome. And we've looked at this Bills offense here. They have just no ability to separate. Like their receivers have just like no ability to get open, especially on the outside. Like I don't think Keon Coleman's catching a ball this week. I mean, against like the outside receivers. So, again, you can already write that up that I'm going to be betting his under at basically any number this week. But like in reality, like they have to attack the middle of the field here. And Josh Allen has had success against the Jets in the past, but that's because he's hit, vertical routes to Shakir over the middle. He's hit guys in the, again, in the middle of the field who can get open. Dalton Kincaid isn't cutting it right now. Shakir's banged up. Curtis Samuel is already injured again and didn't play well last week. So they just don't have anyone who can get open. So they're going to be relying on the run the entire time. That's not something that I want to bank on. And the other side, the Jets, I still think they're going to figure it out offensively, but their running game has been, pathetic. Literally, Breece Hall has played horrible. Braylon Allen played a little bit better, but the offensive line isn't drawing a ton of holes here. And I don't know if they match up as well as the Ravens did against Buffalo, who, basically just trampled them on the ground here. So for me, I guess, yeah, it's if I had to pick a side, it's probably the Jets because I'm getting points here at home, but I don't really feel good about it either way, just because I think I don't really see a ton of edges here on either side.
Opposing offenses are skewing massively run heavy against both of these teams. Both of these teams are facing a negative 6.5% pass rate over expectation. So it's just kind of where you get a 40.5, 41 total. Just a lot of rushing attempts. Interesting to note, possible revenge game. Ty Johnson was playing ahead of Ray Davis last week. So maybe Ty Johnson is the next man up if it ends up being James Cook, which could be interesting. And I don't know. I've always been kind of why doesn't Ty Johnson get a shot in this league? I think his RAS score, I think, was pretty high. He's a fairly good athlete who every time he gets a taste of the ball, he ends up being pretty good. So could be a spot for, Ty Johnson overs, Connor. I don't know if I can possibly find a way. You probably want to take Ray Davis under 19.5, but I'm probably going to take some, Ty Johnson looks. So, but yeah, I think rushing is kind of the way to go for both these clubs. So I don't really believe in any of them. Probably a stay away for me. If it crawls out maybe to 41.5, maybe a little bit of Monday night juice, people start to believe in this offense bouncing back on either side. Maybe an under is a nice little look. So, Mike, anything else on the board that jumps out to you before we wrap? Anything else you want to highlight anywhere else on the board?
Yeah, I'll give you one side and then I'll throw one prop in to get you guys going for the weekend. The first one here is Tennessee. We have our biggest edge on the board for a side is Tennessee getting, I think was it one, I think right now?
It's actually, a bunch of spots are different. So Caesars is a pick 'em, but FanDuel is -1.5 still. So it's
almost a 10% edge. You have Tennessee coming off a bye. They still have a trio of dangerous receivers. Running backs did some nice things against Miami, and I'm just not buying the calls. I didn't buy Anthony Richardson. I understand that everyone overreacts when someone's an athlete. The fact that he didn't have that many starts, no one cared. Usain Bolt ends up getting drafted. Someone's going to pick him first in fantasy because they run. The problem is the offense is not functioning with him there. So really, Joe Flacco should start, but he has to start Richardson. Now it's a Titans defensive front that's pretty good against the run. So they're going to have to do some things with the arm. I don't know if Jonathan Taylor's going to play, but I'll take the Titans here to bounce back off that bye week. And I think they're going to play well. And as an underdog, I love it as a money line play. And the one prop I'll throw to you guys, let's not forget about Juwan Jennings. Juwan Jennings, who was the incredible performance he had a couple weeks ago. Now Ayuk is back. Debo's there. Everyone thinks that he's not going to catch a pass. He still had 4 targets last week, over 28.5 receiving yards. Seattle 26 against wide receiver threes. We project him for 49.3 receiving yards here. So let's go back to Juwan Jennings. We haven't forgot about you, Juwan, as a prop if you're looking at one here going into the week 6.
I will be the last man on Anthony Richardson Island. I will go down with the ship. I still think we haven't had enough of it. It has not been pretty this year. So I am not going to pretend that it's been good. Still, and part of the, this is what the Anthony Richardson people will tell you. The sample's still so small. And I'm just a believer in in Shane Steichen. So it has not been pretty, but especially when they start to show a pulse with Joe Flacco instead of Anthony Richardson, not great. Connor, what's catching your eye on the board here?
Yeah, a couple different spots I thought were interesting. Broncos +3, I thought was kind of notable at home against the Chargers team. The Broncos defense playing awesome. The Chargers defense has played pretty well, but again, it's a low scoring game where you're catching 3 at home. I think this is more of a coin flip opportunity and what's going to be probably a pretty ugly game. And then Saints +3.5 at home as well. I know they've been playing terrible, but and I don't think that this should be a 3.5 point spread here at home by the Bucks here. Again, the Bucks probably have the right to, the ability to kind of push the ball here against the Saints defense. But on the other side, I think that the Saints offense should have plenty of success. I'm not sure the Bucks have enough firepower up front to really do what we've seen the Eagles and what we've seen the Chiefs do to the Saints offense. We saw Yeah, like we've seen that the Saints offensive line can matter, obviously in a bad way, but also like they can get around it if they're not facing the right matchup here. So I think that's another one. And then I'll go against Mike a little bit. I think the Bears win and win big against the Jags this week. I'm big on I think the Jacksonville has some success offensively. I'm not big on this Jags secondary. I think Caleb Williams is another good game and just keeps parlaying his terrible. We want to talk about bad opponents. Caleb Williams played against like the worst defenses, secondaries in the league so far, and gets another, I think, pretty bad one here in a sense. So gets that, and then like 3 more coming up. So want to build a rookie's confidence. I think this is another good way to do that. So I'll take the Bears here. Anything up to 3.
Commanders, Cardinals, Pats on deck for the Bears after this. So again, consistently soft landing spots for Caleb to kind of find his juju. It feels like, I mean, Caleb's almost like a very interesting as a dog offensive rookie of the year candidate. There's so much Jaden Daniels buzz that I think you're going to start to see again.
Yeah, what is he right now?
Yeah, probably at least 2-1.
Oh, Jaden Daniels is minus 250. Wow. He's 3-1. I mean, it makes sense. Jaden Daniels played awesome. So, but yeah, man, it's early. It's early.
It is early. I mean, yeah, Caleb is trash in the chat. It's a very interesting take after a handful of games. So,
come on, man.
Yeah. Easy, buddy. I'm with Connor on the Broncos side. I think Broncos, I don't know. I don't really understand that one at all, especially even like, through the full 3 just doesn't make any sense to me at all. I feel like that should be probably a pick 'em at best. I think maybe the market doesn't really buy into the Broncos yet. I think that's something that's probably incorrect. And give me the Falcons team total over 26.5 on the road against the JV Carolina Panthers defense. I'm just buying the Falcons maybe catching a little bit of momentum here, soft spot here in the division to kind of get things cooking and hang some points. So probably lay the 6-2 would make some sense, but I just give me a bullish spot on the Falcons hanging points on the Panthers. So, all right, guys, Mike, great to catch up, buddy. Tell everyone where they could find you, all your stuff, and everything that's going on at FTN.
Yeah, FTN Fantasy, our models are rolling, DVOA, things are going great. And Stats Hub, our new Stats Hub, we're putting data in each and every week so you can research for your props, your sides, whatever you need. And yes, NBA, going to be rolling on our NBA product as well. And college basketball, guys, you know how it is. Florida Atlantic 2 years ago, Clemson to the Elite 8, but they couldn't stop Alabama. Maybe we find one more this year. We're excited.
Love it. Love it. Appreciate it again, everyone, for hanging out with us today. If you're hanging out again on YouTube, we appreciate it. 4for4 Bets YouTube channel. Subscribe, thumbs up before you take off. Find the podcast, Move the Line wherever you listen to podcasts. Come back on Friday afternoon for Prop Drop. Take advantage of the rebet deal, guys. I mean, $10. You can go right now to 4for4 Bets, 4for4.com/plans. Pay $200 for the betting subscription. We appreciate that. Or you can get it for $10. Get a shot, try it out, see if it's something that you would like in the Discord. Read all the articles, rankings, projections, everything, all the tools that we have on the site, again, for $10. Let us know if you have any questions. So appreciate your time as always. For Connor and Mike, I'm Ryan. We'll see you all next time. Thanks, everybody.